Welcome to In Presence We Trust, a podcast about the art and heart of holding group transformational spaces. In this episode, I'm joined by a very special guest, Laurie Handlers. Laurie is the author of the international best-selling book, Sex and Happiness, the Tantric Laws of Intimacy. She guides people in enhancing pleasure and cultivating deep self-love. With expertise in sexuality, intimacy, and relationships, Laurie is a renowned speaker and facilitator. She leads transformational workshops covering topics such as healing emotional trauma, fearless communication, and sacred sexuality. Alongside her partner, Laurie provides relationship coaching and workshops focusing on nurturing extraordinary love. In the conversation you're about to hear, Laurie shares her journey as a facilitator and workshop leader since 1978. She discusses starting with the body, mind, and spirit workshops for women, expanding to mother-daughter workshops, and the challenges of dealing with trauma. Laurie emphasizes taking responsibility for one's experiences and the need for honest communication in relationship. We discuss our relationships, the lessons we've learned about love and communication, and the importance of good communication skills, resolving conflicts immediately, and respecting boundaries. Laurie speaks about maintaining desirability, embracing aging as growth and exploration, and encouraging self-care and fun at any age. If you're ready to begin, join me by taking a deep breath. I just want to say thank you, Laurie. Laurie and myself are suffering a little cold, but she managed to be here, and I just want to say thank you for being here.
You're welcome. I didn't want to miss this for the world. So I'm a little gravelly, but I can speak.
We're
Rachel.
going to make it through just fine. So Laurie has been facilitating workshops. You were just saying to me your first workshop that you facilitated was in 1978. What was
Yeah.
that What was your first workshop that you ever facilitated?
It was called Body, Mind, and Spirit for Women. And it was a weekend workshop in Massachusetts. I believe it was in Massachusetts. For women who were interested in growing emotionally, spiritually, and had issues with self-esteem, issues with anger, issues in relationships. And I had a business then called We Are Women's Education and Resource Enterprises, Inc. We Are.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I had a business partner, and I have a team of women, and we used to put together these workshops and do them. But that evolved into a mother-daughter workshop, which we did for adult daughters and their mothers to resolve things, like if they had issues, to bring their mothers and resolve things. We did that on Cape Cod a number of times, and my mother worked for me at it. She was a facilitator, and Marsha's mother worked for her at it. And my mother said to me once, "Oh, Laurie, you don't have to pay me." And I said, "Oh, yes, I do. Because if you do, I have to have the room to say, I need you to make a correction. And if it's just based on our relationship, we could get into a fight. So I'm paying you to be able to give you honest feedback about how you're doing as a facilitator." And no one was doing work like that then. I mean, it was revolutionary. It was crazy.
That's it's amazing. How did you even how did it happen? How did you have the idea? How did you market it and get people to come to it? How was that even happening?
I, at the time, was facilitating women's groups, and I had my own women's group. Women's consciousness groups were big then. So I had my own women's consciousness group that I facilitated. And then there were a bunch of other people who had women's groups that were my colleagues at the time. There was a community center in Jamaica Plain in Boston, outside of Boston, and we did a big women's gathering there, and I advertised there, and people filled. I mean, filling the course then was like 20 people. It's also oh my God, in the body, mind, and spirit workshop is the first time I ever dealt with trauma.
Yeah.
A woman was in the course. I knew her very well. She was friends with friends of mine and whatever. And every time we did an emotional release sequence, her eyes would roll
The
back in
back
her
of the
head.
head.
She
Yeah.
would dissociate. And I remember going to her and saying to her, I need to talk to you. And she said, okay. And I said, I don't know where you go,
Mm.
but the people on either side of you are freaking out because you seem gone. So I
Yeah.
want to know if I can just come up to you and do this on your chest, and will you come back? And she said, yes. And so she did. I mean, that was my experience of how you deal with trauma. I didn't know what to do. I made it up. And then she came to the mother-daughter workshop with her mother. And so it happened, what
Uh,
happened a few times there. And I don't know if her mother knew or not, but I would go and she would link herself back in.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so in my young, tender ages of, doing workshops, I dealt with it all. I dealt with it all in the very beginning.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm even thinking that just like 15, 20 years ago, we were in like the wild, wild west of not really knowing how to do this and kind of stumbling into it and making it up. And it's incredible where we've come in the last just 10 years of information and understanding trauma and how to work with it. I can't even imagine what it was like in the 70s. It's it's really cool, both in the freedom of it, but also in the pioneering aspect of what you said yes to step into.
Yes, I did. I mean, to me, it was exciting, and I didn't see any other way to go. I was teaching that. I mean, what I did for a living was I was a teacher at a community college
Mm,
outside at Quincy Junior College. I used to teach like psychology and sociology there. And then at night, I said I want to do a women's course. So that's another place that I got women. I said I want to do a women's studies course. So I taught that course at Quincy Junior College, and then I taught it at Northeastern University.
wow.
I also taught at that time assertiveness training for women and assertiveness for men at the Boston Center for Adult Education and the Cambridge Center for Adult Education. So that's also where where
Grabbed
I
people.
was teaching. And so people were like, what else do you do? We want to come on a weekend. And so that's how I started doing the weekends.
Super cool. Super cool. I'm really curious how it is to be you in that, I feel for myself like facilitating today is such a minefield of potential. Like, you have to be so careful to not trigger, to not upset, to not overstep. And it's a little bit like I find myself teetering on how do we stay connected to what wants to happen here and the potential of transformation, and yet like having to be really careful because of how really sensitive and cancel culture and like I'm just curious. I can't imagine what it's like for you to have traversed that over the last 40 plus years. How is it for you today to facilitate compared to what you were able to do 40 years ago?
Mm, yeah. So yeah, there was a Wild West. It was very wild. It was, it's pioneering. That's what I did. I did workshops. How's it different? I'm not that much different. I feel like I say to people, look, I'm not that woo. I'm going to tell it to you straight. I'm going to listen to you really keenly. And if you say limiting things, or if you tell me that you this is so hard, or you can't that, or you couldn't this. I'm going to question you about that, and I'm going to question you about whether you should be here at all.
Mm.
So I say that pretty much in the beginning. There's at ISTA we have this agreement number 7. I agree to take 100% responsibility for the nature of my experience. And so I go into tremendous detail on that agreement, and I have that
Mm.
agreement in my other workshops as well. That means, to me, what that means is I am agreeing to take responsibility and accountability for how I interpret what's happening here. And I look at it like this. I always give this analogy to people. I could tell a joke, and 80% of the people in this room could laugh at my joke, and 5% of the people might not get the joke, and there's another 15 that might be offended by the joke. Now, whose responsibility is it? It's the same joke. 80%
Mm.
of the people thought it was funny, 5% didn't get it, and 15%, did I do the math right?
Yep.
15% were offended. Whose responsibility is the interpretation of that joke?
Mm.
So some people like a certain comedian, some people don't. They think they're politically offensive or racially offensive or, gender offensive. But are they? Is there an audience? So I just say, I explain that to them and I say, look, there's going to be some things that I might say that you take completely differently from how I meant it. It is your responsibility to ask questions and ask me, what did I mean by that? Instead of going off in a huff. By the same
Mm.
token, you're just sitting there and you're not really getting it. I want to know that.
Mm.
It's not my intention to offend anyone. It's not my
Mm.
intention to offend anyone. So I like to talk about that in the very beginning and say that now. Have people been offended? I haven't gotten really bad feedback over the years. I guess that's why I'm still in this business. Um, getting stroked,
Yeah.
but I have been called out in a class for being, someone called me anti-trans because I was demonstrating a safer sex talk and I was saying who I would be attracted to. And I said I'm pretty much of a straight woman. I'm mostly attracted to men. I might be bi sensitive. Um, I'm not so bi curious. And that's what I said. And the person raised their hand and they said, well, you left out trans people. And I said, yeah, I did. I said, I'm not against people who are trans. That's just not who I would naturally be attracted to.
Mm.
And so the person just kept going and going and going with me. And
Mm.
I said, look, we're not going to make $1 million point here on me. Like, I'm on
Mm.
your team. I'm doing
Mm.
workshops for these people. I'm not your enemy. But
Mm.
change my attractions. I'm attracted to who I'm attracted to. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is what I was saying. It's a minefield now, and I think what I'm resting in is the goodness of, you know, each facilitator has a unique soul spark and a unique shine. And the invitation is, hey, I have something to share. Do you want to come learn that with me? Do you want to come be a part of my reality and come like like take in the nutrients that I have to give the world? And what a shame it would be if we all did that the most culturally appropriate way that was, it's like it's part of the it's part of the glamour and the glitz and the terrifyingness and the mystery of the unknown is you're surrendering your perception of reality and saying, yes, take me the places I haven't gone before and show me how you see the world.
so good. That's that's
Yeah.
that's so good. Yeah, and if they don't like it, they can write feedback or they can choose to leave or they can do whatever. I've had so
Yeah.
little of that. I mean, in the history of me doing workshops, also note that I used to do internal stuff like corporate stuff. And I used to do similar things. Like I would
Oh,
get
wow.
everybody saying everyone had to be embodied for me to even talk to them about anything. And they would be
Brilliant.
like, why are we dancing?
Yeah.
We're in suits and we're in corporate, and engineers would be like this, I would go, well, I'm going to humor you into transformation. You're going to be laughing
Mm,
at yourself. You're going to be laughing at me. We're going to all be laughing. We might cry a little bit, and you will get your money's worth of what you said you wanted to shift. I like to
yeah.
hear the intentions. I like to hear people's intentions because I want to know what they came for. So I know what I'm aiming at. And if their intentions are off, I might stop the whole thing and say, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you can't get that from me.
Mm,
Whatever that is, I can't give you that. That's not that's not an okay intention for this class.
mm, mm, mm,
Here's the
mm.
check. See you. Go see somebody.
I so appreciate um your queen like what you're resting back into as an elder of just like, here it is, this is what I got, it's straightforward, it's like no bullshit, this is who I am and this is what I have to give, like take it or leave it. It's so refreshing.
Thank you. Okay, so when I was 22, I went this thing called La Jolla program, which was a Carl Rogers program in La Jolla, California, and it was a 3-week program where we were in. It was 100 people going in encounter groups, like in encounter groups of 10, and then you'd go for a few days with these 10 people, and then we'd switch, and then we'd be with another 10 people, and the third week of the program, people from the public came, and whoever wanted to could facilitate an encounter group a la Carl Rogers style, which is you don't do anything. They're together for a number of days. They talk about whatever they want to talk about, and you just keep them on track. But so I teamed up with a Roman Catholic priest from New Jersey.
Oh
He
my
and I,
gosh.
he and I decided to co-facilitate together,
Wow.
and 10 people came from the outside, and I tried all the things that I had studied at Grow Institute and in Beacon, New York, at psychodrama, and he was, I'm so afraid you're going to get hurt. Somebody's going to, they're not going to get your humor, or they're not going to want to do what you want them to do. And I said, Frank, we told them that no one could throw anyone out a window. Nobody could. So I'm going to be okay.
So good.
Yeah, I always felt like there was an edge where people could grow,
Mm,
and and if they didn't, they would never walk to that edge necessarily by themselves. Like
yeah.
someone needed to hold their hand to take them to the edge, and I always felt like I could do that.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. That's so sweet. What a funny story. I love it. So I'm really curious. You're an expert at so many things, and I have my own personal um curiosities about you, but I'd love to just hear a little bit, like, considering where you've been and what you've done and where you're at now, like what about your work is most exciting for you today? Like what is lighting you up most around, I mean, maybe it's group facilitation, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a kind of group, maybe it's a kind of coaching, or like what is it that you're feeling the most lit up about right now?
It's not one thing. It's a few things. Such a good question. First of all, I facilitate with Brianna Krabaya an apprentice program. So we teach people how to facilitate and coach. That like
Ah,
I love that. I love working with Brianna. Brianna's very talented. She has more structure than I do. I'm just gonna hang out and jam with people and they'll get what they get. And
yeah,
she's like, no, 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 let's structure it. Let's know exactly what we're doing. Da, da. And so our blend is very, very good. Um, we really produce good facilitators and good coaches.
yeah,
Like come out and they have a code of ethics, and they know what their niche is, and they go for it. And um, yeah, the people that come to us, I feel, leave us with a lot of ammunition and a start and a plan. And we also push them, like they have to do projects that stretch them.
Super
So
cool.
that lights me up. I love that. That's one. Two, I'm actually wanting to move away from so much facilitation, and I'm moving towards doing a TED Talk and um, a TEDx and standing on stages and speaking. Uh, that's what I'm moving towards. Like taking the crystals of greatness that I've learned and the things that I've gotten from working with so many, I mean, thousands of people,
Yeah.
and put them on the stage. Like just saying,
Wow.
I've spoken before to like 1,000 people on a stage. It was about sex and longevity,
Uh-huh.
and that was amazing. I got like a standing ovation. I couldn't see them, but I could. When the house lights went up, I could see everybody was standing up. Like it was one of those stages
No.
I did by the stage lights, so I could feel the
Yeah.
people, but I couldn't see them. I want to do more of that, more speaking.
Yeah. What would your TED Talk be called? Do you already know?
Yeah, I do. It's something like, what if we were taught how to love? So
Mm.
it's debunking that the myth that someday my prince will come and he'll put a glass slipper on my foot, and then we'll live happily ever after. Like
Yeah.
we have nobody that I know has any idea how to sustain a love relationship, because we were taught everything but. We were never
Yeah.
taught how to communicate with someone we love. And the most important thing in our life, really, the thing that most people have dreamed of, I'm going to find someone. I'm going to find, and even people in poly, you know, uh, relationships, find like a sort of primary person that they feel they can fall into and love and trust. And then there's so much breakdown around, well, you said this. And what did
Yeah.
you mean? I'll never forgive
Yeah.
you for that. You know, we learn algebra, geometry, language arts, a foreign language, shop, homemaking. I don't know what the computer skills. We
Yeah.
don't learn how to communicate in a sustainable love relationship. And to most of
Yeah.
us, it's an important thing in our whole life, even to have a kid and to be
Yeah.
able to sustain that loving relationship with a child, and make sure that the channels of communication are open, that again, that a misinterpretation could cause a breakdown or a rift that goes on forever.
Yeah. It's
So it's going to
beautiful.
be, so my talk is going to be, what if we were taught how to love? What would that
Mm.
include? And
Yeah.
how could we look at the fact that we all foolishly bought into a cartoon?
Yeah. 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 It's hysterical, but it's also devastating. Like I can feel it for myself. I can feel the part of myself that still has that little girl that's waiting for that moment, and it's all just going to work out and be perfect. And I can feel also simultaneously like the work that I'm still doing to learn and figure it out, and still falling and failing, and it makes me emotional to imagine where we would be if that was actually something that we all learned.
Mm, yeah, it would be so great. I have chills just talking about it. I mean, I
Yeah.
once wrote an email called Happily Ever After My Ass, you know,
It's good.
like we don't know how to love. We really
Mhm.
don't. We're so quick to to cover our heart and to withdraw love and be righteous and mad about something, an incident, something,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
make and to punish and whatever. And this is what we've seen with our parents. This is what we've seen in the movies. This is
Yeah.
what we've seen. This is what we've seen in our dance songs. Like, every song is about the Cartman drama triangle.
Yeah.
I'm so that's what I will speak about on the stage.
Mm,
But if we
mm,
and
mm.
applied, we'll see. I'm unfortunately I can't tell you right this minute when it's going to be, but I and where. But I have applied to a few, and I'm waiting
Mm.
for a TED coach. I have somebody who's coaching me.
Oh, so
Do
cool.
yeah,
I'm I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. I'm gonna watch it whenever it happens.
thank you.
And it opens up. I'm really excited. I just met your husband, your new husband, Michael, and you're a
Ellen,
newlywed.
I
And
am.
I'm so curious what this new relationship is teaching you about love.
Oh my goodness. First of all, it's teaching me that that no image that I had in my mind is anything like what the reality is. Like
Yeah.
when we met, we weren't attracted to each other. We weren't each other's type. That's number one. Not at all. We walked right away from. We had a little conversation about red wine, and then we walked away from each other at a
Mm.
party. Not never thinking we'd ever talk again. And then the following week, I was doing something at a One Taste. I was trying to help the One Taste people establish themselves here in Phoenix. And I walked in, and Michael was there. And he said, "Didn't I meet you the other night at that party? Weren't we talking about wine yet?" And then they put him on the hot seat, and they said to him, "If you could have anything, what do you want?" And he said, "I believe there's a goddess in every woman." So right away, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, like the old RCA Victor thing where the dog is listening to the animals to my ears. And so he says, "And that's who I want to meet and interact with." And I say to him, "Have you told anyone this?" He says, "No." So I am not. I'm very shy when it comes to. I'm not a shy person at all. I'm very extroverted, but when it comes to like being attracted to someone, I always want to be chosen. I want to be picked. I'm
Mm,
not.
mm. Yeah.
I beeline to him at the end of this event, and I said to him, "We should have that glass of wine now that we were talking about the other night." And he said, "Really?
Ah.
I am the goddess. That's who you need."
Oh.
And I said, and my body had a visceral reaction to you saying that. I got like a little wet or something. And he just went like,
Oh.
"We should have that glass of wine." Like he got so, and we were at a place that had a restaurant, a wine bar, and a bookstore. So it had different options. So we went and had a glass of wine and we vetted each other. And my first
Mm.
question to him was, "What have you spent money on in terms of personal growth?"
Interesting.
And he rattled off, I did the Landmark Forum, I did Sai seminars, I did Allison Armstrong, I've taken tantric massage, and I went, hmm. I said, "Very good. I worked at Landmark Education." I said, "And I teach tantra and da da da." And then he looked at me and said, "Should we date?" And I said, "Yes, I think we should date." Now, if you looked at us physically, I'm 21 years older than him. He's like more rounded. I'm like a workout junkie fanatic. Like not even like we would never the chances of us, finding each other at like the gym or, on a hike or what would it's probably not. And yet here we are
Yeah.
and like all of our check marks about what our values were, what was important to us, check, 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 check.
Wow.
We started dating and that's like it's 9.5 years ago. And then we got married like this past October 23, we got married. And I mean marriage was never even in my cards. It wasn't anything I was like, if I get married, someone's gonna try and like stop me from being me. And I'm not gonna ever be stopped from
Yeah.
being me. So I'm never marrying. I was never married. I mean, I was the bane of my mother. She was like, "Why all your friends are married?" And I was like, "Yeah, ma, just don't hold your breath. Not gonna do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So what made you get
I
married?
set a new fashion, which is to get married when you're 75. And like, that's a really good age to get married because you know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. You can say till death do we do us part with a different kind of conviction at
Yeah, we don't
75.
say that though. I always say knock them alive. So our marriage has knocked people alive. We're not using death. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Thank
beautiful.
you. So what was your question? You had a question. I was saying that thing about.
My question was, what is this relationship, this new relationship teaching you about
Yeah,
love? I know you're both now also teaching together, and I'm curious, like, what are you bringing from the bedroom into the workshop room as a
great.
couple?
It's great. We noticed about 2 or 3 years in, we noticed that this relationship was different from any other relationship we had ever had. Michael had been married for 15
Yeah.
years. He has 2 grown children and 2 grandchildren. I never married. I've had, I don't know, hundreds of relationships. And they always ended because I was bored with the person pretty much, or they were bored with me. Like it was something like that. Um,
Hmm.
they were great, but or maybe I lost respect. I don't even know. I'm trying to ask myself that these days. But what we realized was something was different about us, that we had really good communication skills. We spent a lot of money to learn how to communicate. So we have really good communication
Yep.
skills. We never stop listening to each other. We never walk away in a huff. There's no huff. Two, we don't build resentment. We clear things immediately. We do a tantric practice, we do a bubble, and we get in the bubble and we say, I have something I need to talk to you about. And we listen and we resolve it. And we have a we have a thing called the first one to apologize and return to love wins. So like whoever
Uh,
apologizes first and returns to love quickly wins whatever it is, and then we give rewards. So we don't harbor resentment. We don't we don't resist each other. If we feel that one of us is resisting the other, then we sit down and have a conversation about it. We call this the 4 R's: resentment, resistance, revenge. We haven't gotten to revenge. We won't get to revenge. And righteousness. Not only am I revengeful about this person, but I'm righteous about it. I deserve to be mad.
mm,
We So what
mm,
we teach couples is to not go there. Here's how you prevent the 4 R's, and it's by sitting down, making a bubble, finding the time, communicating long before the thing has festered. So we
yeah.
realized that. We also realized, oh, we have a lot of chemistry things. We don't share the same bedroom. We believe that couples neutralize their pheromones by sleeping in the same bed. So we tell people not to do that. You can have a sleepover. You
Yeah.
visit, but like you need your own space. So there are
Yeah.
chemical things that we teach people about, and then I don't know, we started to like unpack what do we know about relationships and what have we learned and how is it that we're using it? And then we said, oh, this is a course called Extraordinary Lovers. Being extraordinary is just a little extra from ordinary, little
Mm,
extra effort. And most people could do it. They just don't,
yeah.
they just need to, you know, extra. What do I have to do? A little
Yeah.
extra to prevent this thing from going on rails the other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that,
Well, it has so much to do with what we haven't learned, which is exactly what you talked about at the begin, like a few moments ago. It's like there's so much we haven't been taught, and in light of having better information, we resort back to what we've seen done, um, and that's obviously not not great stuff.
I think of all the movies I've seen in Hollywood movies. I think of the War of the Roses. I think that was Danny DeVito. And I can't remember who else. I think of, Fatal Attraction. I think of Sting song, I'll Be Watching You. I think of Prince singing, I Would Die for You. I don't want to die for you. I want to live with um all these
Yeah.
lyrics. And they're all the drama triangle. They're all
Yeah.
there's nothing healthy about all this stuff. I heard the Sting apologize
Mm.
for that song later on. But it's there that's not the way to love someone. It's just not the way according to
Mm.
me, so and I
Mhm.
can. It's just not right. So,
Mm. What is that thing that you're giving couples that's saving the marriage?
a way to communicate, it's like a format, a way to communicate the
Mhm.
hardest things, things
Mm.
that somebody wouldn't necessarily tell, like, I'm just not going to say anything about that. I'm going to tolerate it. The tolerating,
Yeah.
a way to say that stuff and get it out so that it doesn't fester. That's one. Rituals. So, ritual practice or practices that we could say, hey, we need to do this. We haven't done, let's make a
Yeah.
date. We have to do this. Ritual practice. And then touch. Interestingly enough, touch.
Absolutely.
Like what I found out, even in the Tantra world, the first time Michael and I made love, I said to him, where did you learn to touch? No Tantra guy has ever touched me the way you touch me. And he said, I Googled it. That's
Stop it.
he said, when I got out of my marriage, he said, I was pretty good at picking up women. I was pretty good at getting, meeting them and getting them to be with me. He goes, but it was like when we got back to my place, you didn't know what to
I
do.
didn't know what to do.
He said, and you know
Yeah.
what come to realize? And I said, what? He goes, men never learn. They don't talk about, I thought men talked about it in the locker room. I thought men talked about it in the fraternities. I thought men talked about it just like women talk about it. Women talk about everything. They have a couple of glasses of wine and they say,
Yeah.
men don't talk about it. Hey, did you? And the guy goes, yes. And they go, great. That's what they say. They don't talk about it. So they don't pass skills on to each other. They only, if and they got with a woman who knew something and wasn't afraid to tell them. I'm talking about hetero couples now. I'm not talking same sex, but same sex couples come to extraordinary lovers and they learn anyway, the same things.
Mm-hmm.
But if men in general don't, they don't have anywhere to learn and they think they learn that through porn because that's the only place where anything is depicted. And of course, that isn't educational. That is only for entertainment.
Right.
That doesn't, you don't learn anything from porn. They don't show you how to touch. They don't take their time. They don't slow down. They don't whatever. So we teach touch and we how to
Mm.
communicate about touch. Uh,
Mm.
So those are the things. They're just a little extra, and that's
Yeah.
extraordinary. Like ordinary is fighting. Let's fight. Let's fight
Yeah.
over this. Who cooked dinner? No,
Yeah.
don't fight. Fighting is ordinary, and fighting isn't required. It's not required. So we're
Yeah.
teaching it these
Yeah.
days.
That's
Sorry.
amazing. That's amazing.
Mm.
And I think I've seen through the seeingness, there's also quite a lot that has to do with boundaries in your work. And I'm really curious, like I think it would seem counterintuitive for people to think that with their relationship, they need to understand boundaries because boundaries is like what you have with strangers. But why is boundaries also important for relationships?
Boundaries is so important. I never realized before. So I wrote a best-selling book, Sex and Happiness, the Tantric Laws of Intimacy. And I wrote a chapter about boundaries, and that was the hardest chapter for me to write because I didn't get boundaries.
Ah,
I didn't get boundaries in my family. My father used to barge into my room and want to talk. And then I didn't, I was the same way. I was just like him in relationships. I can
good.
talk with you now. Now. And when someone was at the boundary, I would go, I feel like I was guilty. Like my hands are, what did I do? I violated a
Yeah.
boundary. And I've come to
Yep.
see that boundaries are so healthy. So I learned this from Michael. He, when we first got together, he would say to me, if we have sex, you're not staying over at my place and I'm not staying at your place because I need sleep. I can't sleep with another person. And I would go, okay. I liked him so much, and our physical connection was so good, and it was so intense. And I went, okay, I'll take it. I'll drive home, or I'll take an Uber or whatever, or you'll drive home. And then in 6 months from there, he said, I'd like to stay over. And I went, why? I thought you would like to stay over. He said, no, you didn't try to manipulate me into staying, or you into staying with me, so I could trust you now, so I could stay over. Then he'd say to me things like, don't try to have a relationship with me. I'm not that good in relationships. And I'm going, okay. Who I am and myself and my own person, I'm not that insecure about having to make it into something right away. Like, it's okay, it feels good. I'm doing it. So at the point he said to me, I think we're in a relationship. I don't think I said, why do you not want to be in a relationship? He said, because because I get watered down. I lose myself in a relationship, and I want to maintain. I like who I am. I want to maintain who I am. And I said, that's not with me. That won't happen with me because I know who I am, and I don't need you to be different. You're not my project. So he said, I trust you. And so this is to me, this is like the book, The Little Prince. Like, this is everything in the book, The Little Prince, the children's book.
Yeah.
The prince wants to tame the fox, and the fox says, come every single day at the same time and stay in the same place. I'll tell you when you can come closer. And then the fox finally says to the prince, I'm tamed. You came the same time, the same way every day, and now I'm tamed, and you're responsible to me, and I'm responsible to you. To me, that's what boundaries are. You test the waters, and if you're reliable, if you're trustworthy in the matter, then I don't have to keep on guard about you. Like, I can trust you, and if I can become more intimate with you. So he really taught me that boundaries create more intimacy when respected. And you don't even have to know why. No, you don't have to know why. He gave me reasons, but what we found out is that boundaries protect our values. Like, if he values or if he values his sleep, and I honor that boundary, then I also value that. I value, and I'm not trying to change him. Well, a lot of people get it. They see someone, they go, you're my project. I'm going to change you. I'm not to change him. He can be exactly who he is. I'd like him to, I have made one big request of him. You'll laugh when I tell you what it is. My big request is that he actually learn how to lead me in dancing. I love salsa. I love swing dance. I love tango. And he can do all of them, but he's not, leader savvy. And I want, to me, that's a surrender, and I want to be led. And I said, I don't want to betray you with another person on the dance floor, but I do all the time when I'm dancing with someone who really knows how to lead. My smile is like this, and I'm just like, in my life. And I said so I have made one big request in that department, but the rest, communication and everything, like we really practice what we preach.
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
Gorgeous.
so really, really fun.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It sounds like it. It sounds like it. And what I love that you're also describing is how boundaries are also dynamic. Like, they're not set in stone. They're not Like, yes, maybe 6 months feels like a long time, but when respected, there's the safety and trust and space that they have the chance to find a new set point, a new normal, a new neutral.
Yeah.
You know, they're changing in time and space.
Yeah, there's craziest things that get people away from each other and that start building resentments between each other. Yeah. So boundaries are dynamic,
Yeah.
everything you said. I have a chapter on boundaries in my new book. It's the same title, Sex and Happiness, but the subtitle is It Gets Better with Age. And I have a chapter on boundaries, but it's different. Younger people need boundaries to protect their body and to say no to things they really don't want to experience, sexually or date wise or, from friends, borrowing things or whatever. Those are the examples that I give in that book. Older people need boundaries about people trying to scam them, people who are trying to get money.
Yes.
Like when you're younger, someone's trying to get your body. When you're older, someone's trying to get your money.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, like
It's so true.
scamming, like getting older people who are so unsuspecting into
Yeah.
situations. So I write a whole other chapter about boundaries and why it's needed at older points in our life.
Yeah. Wow, thank you for saying that. That's really also relevant for my personal life. I have some people in my family that are older who keep getting scammed on the internet. And I'm like, we need to just take the internet away because they just keep finding, and once you're opened up to it, it's like they're just vultures and they're just it's really unfortunate. I want to circle back to something you just opened up because I think as we're kind of coming into the close, there's one more thing we have to talk about, which is, I think, sex and aging. And I just want to say, aging is something that culturally, especially as a woman, we're just terrified of and just like avoiding at all costs. It's just like, close up, it's not happening, it's not happening. And I want to really celebrate you because you're one of the very few women in the world who've made me go, maybe it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
As I'm witnessing you age and you're just like, you're just glowing. And I would love to give some space for you to share a little bit about sex and aging and about what it means to age today and how you're almost like paving a new path for the celebration and the exciting journey that it is to age as a woman. So I just want to say thank you for that, first of all, just to open up a new perspective for us as women.
Thank you. Well, I don't know. I just, how I feel is I feel a little different. I mean, I feel different from when I felt when I was 50. I feel different from how I felt when I was 25 for sure. I feel, first of all, that women who are aging are more secure. So I do this new course just to over 50 for people to do the International School of Temple Arts when they're 50 and up. I instituted that program because I felt like women became somewhat invisible when they're not. They feel less desirable, and it feels like the world desires them less. And that's a big fear. Oh my God, I look in the mirror, I'm not desirable. What am I going to do? My whole life was built on desirability, lipstick and tit jobs and, lip plumpers and eyebrows and, everything, all the things that women do to be desirable. And then it's like, oh, here it goes. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm not going that way. I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to be as desirable as I possibly can be and to myself. So it started with me. And then when I met Michael, we had a breakup because I was really too old for him. We broke up for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 months at some point because he said, I don't want to date somebody my mother's age. And I said, I think I'm older than her. I don't know. It doesn't have to go the way culture has made it. We don't have to be old hags who are all, with moles with the hair coming out, we
Yeah.
we can maintain ourselves. It takes something though. It takes
Mm.
maintenance. It takes movement every day. It takes being cautious about what we consume. I do biohacking. I'm like a wild biohacker. I don't want to go into all the things that I take and the treatments that I've gotten, but I if I can bend science my way, I will. Um,
Yeah.
and hormones, I take bioidentical hormones because things change. You know, like things the body doesn't produce as much moisture in places where I like it to be lubricated, and also desire wanes as testosterone wanes in men and women. Desire wanes, so it's important to be on top of these things. But I just feel like I'm not going the way that the newspapers and magazines have said that I have to go. I'm going,
Mm.
and now it's changing. There's lots of older models and lots of models who are full figured, and I see this in I'm
Mm.
seeing now sort of like plumper bodies are advertising things, and I'm so happy about that. Um,
Mm.
so I said, no, I'm not going that way. I'm gonna do this is my life. If I'm my own science experiment, then I'm going that way.
Mm.
So I'm glad. I'm glad of it. I did this talk to 1,000 people twice on a stage in San Diego at something called RADFest, Revolution Against Aging and Death. And I said to
Mm.
people, you know, if you don't have a partner and you need to get juiced up in your own body, if you feel like, oh, I'm too old or I'm too afflicted with something, I'm in a wheelchair, I'm whatever, I said, these are free. They work. You know, you have hands and they work and they can touch you. They touch you in the womb.
Mm.
They can touch you when you're older. And that got the
Mm.
standing ovation for. Like people were like, and you know, I said, look, if you have enough money, there are sex dolls, there are robots. You know, there are ways that you don't have to be lonely if you have money and you're too shy or you feel like nobody's attracted to you. But a lot of that is in your head. And if
Yeah.
you put yourself out there, you don't know. So this ISTA over 50 is like a success overnight. People come and their issues are so different. They're not worried about, oh my God, is everything perfect? They're like, yes, how can I have so much fun for the rest of my life? What do I have to do? It's a different conversation. My kids are grown. Now what? What am I looking
Yeah.
forward to? And people are having the time of their life in these courses.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been so happy to see this new creation because it's been also for me as a workshop leader. It's been one of the more challenging aspects is the age gap and people coming and the different life paths people are on and the different stages. And I'm just so happy that you started that. And I've been wanting so badly to be a fly on the wall and to be in there and see what's happening. I can only imagine.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Some couples have come, some older single women, some older single men. The oldest person I've had in the course is over 80, and that
Wow.
person has come more than once and has really
Wow.
made marked changes to the personality in that regard. And then it gives hope to people who still
Yeah.
feel somewhat hopeless. Like, where am I going to meet people? What
Yeah.
am I going to do? And I said, you know, take off those frumpy clothes, put on some really hot mama clothes, and to, you know, take off whatever that is. Even if you're walking with a cane, I don't care. Like, put on some decent items of clothes and have some fun. Laugh at yourself and laugh at everyone else.
Yeah.
Condition is all the same. I'm doing it in Europe in September. It'll be the first time I do it in Europe. I'm doing it in Italy, and Italy has a very big aging population. And I'm hoping that we're
Yeah.
going to have Italian translation. So I'm hoping that a lot of people from there come, but already Americans and Germans and British are signing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Just want to really encourage anyone who is over 50 who hasn't yet for sure stepped into a transformational or workshop space to come. I think that would be an incredible place to come and not have to confront the ageism and, you know, people in their 20s. It's just like I just don't have the same. There's just a different quality of conversation. I can just really encourage and invite anyone to go join you there.
It gave me goosebumps just thinking about it. Can I show my book? Can I just show my book?
Yeah.
The book cover? Well,
please, yes. Tell everyone this is a great moment to just say, how can people stay connected to you? How can they continue to study, to learn, to read? Show us your books. Yes.
Someone wrote me and said,
Sex
those
and
legs
happiness.
aren't over 50. And I said, yes, they are. My legs looked like that when I was 50. They might not look like that now. I'm 76, but these legs are 50-year-old legs. Anyway, it's called Sex and Happiness.
Nice.
It gets better with age. And people can get it on my
Yes.
website, lauriehandlers.com, or they can get it on Amazon. It's not on Audible yet. I haven't had a chance to go into the studio and which is right next door to this office. I haven't had a chance to go into the studio yet and read it, but that's my next project. Get this on Audible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So people can find me on my website. They can find me. They can Google me and they can find me. I have podcasts. I have books. I have different, so many different things that I teach. And I don't plan to stop. I just plan to focus in some different directions now.
So cool. Thank you so much for joining me and being here. Thank you so much for who you are in the world and the new paths that you continue to pave for us, since that you've been doing forever. It seems like that's just who you're meant to be. Is you're just a pioneer, and I'm standing on your big shoulders because if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. So good. Grateful to have been here. Thank you for the invitation. What fun.
Thank you so much for joining this episode of In Presence We Trust. Join us next week for another exciting new special guest and interview on this facilitation podcast. Until then, you can check out my website, thefield.com, for information on upcoming courses with myself, and also check out previously recorded episodes and special guest interviews. Special thank you to all the beings who've contributed to the creation of this podcast: Michelle, Vaishnavi, Joby, Lavinia, and the sound fields, Thomas and John. Thank you again for joining as we continue the journey and open up this new communal space and learning environment that is In Presence We Trust. You can subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to like and comment below. Until next time, deep breath.